I will say, after a certain point in time, it became less about finding that success and more about just living values. And so I went down this thesis of nothing in terms of like goals matters as much if you can just live your day-to-day values. And so really got heavy on that concept and tried to surround myself around that.
Welcome to the Lead In Podcast, where we dive deep into genuine stories of leaders who've seized control of their journey. This podcast is brought to you by Lead Hub, your growth partner for the trades. And now, I'm going to kick it over to our guy, Austin Lenny.
Guys, welcome. We have, in the eye of the hurricane, the tropical storm, we have Mr. Trenton here. How are you doing, sir?
Good to have you, my friend.
Good to have you here too, man. So we follow each other. I on purpose don't do prior meetings or kind of investigate because I like to be surprised, just like the guests. So, kind of tell them your story, share a little bit where you want to get started, and we'll kind of go from there.
Cool. Yeah. Good to connect. Obviously, we follow each other on X, and Austin stuff definitely resonates with me. My background real quickly, entrepreneur turned investor, been in the entrepreneurship game probably 8 or 9 years or so, started in corporate, working with corporate ladder, realized like many of us do that wasn't necessarily the path I wanted to go down. Took another path where I basically became a co-founder of a company that was already existing called Helpware, which basically built customer service SaaS and teams for customer service departments. So it really became more of a building global teams for startups, specifically within customer service. Ended up being over 1,000 person employee company, actually over 2,000. So it had a kind of crazy, wild growth trajectory. That company did sell 3 or 4 years ago. And then since then, I've also created another company called Station Entertainment. Co-founded that, was an influencer and sports agency representing influencers and athletes and helping them with like brand deals and sponsorships, and grew that to several million in revenue. And then I took an exit of that last year. And so now, more in investing. We have kind of a venture studio model where we're trying to figure out what to invest in and starting our own things. One of those is a company called Tribe, which is a network for entrepreneurs. So that's kind of what we're up to.
So just a couple things in there. So it's funny. I'm very excited because I got something for you that I need to talk to you about off camera because I can't have anybody steal my idea. But
okay, cool.
But here's what's interesting, right? And let's go mindset first. So you've exited 2 companies, and you're like, hey, I'm going to start another one, and we might do some other stuff. Like, I can we just move past? Like, I'm going to like create a company, sell it, and drink pina coladas on the beach. Have we finally, like, if that's your thing, like, dude, we're good. But like, I just got to the point where I realized, like maybe I'm not making money from something, but I'll always be doing something because I love like helping people and just giving back.
Yeah, basically came to a similar realization. And I know a lot of people that have exits do. There's a bit of an existential crisis that happens with a lot of us. For sure happened with me. I had a for sure mental breakdown, emotional breakdown leading up to that exit. And then afterwards that resulted in a lot of inner self work that really took some hard looks in the mirror. And so this new journey that I'm on is not like, let's go make companies and sell them anymore. It's really like, let's create things that we're excited about, want to hold on to, and really help people along the way. So Tribe is a network for entrepreneurs. That one is very focused on community and helping people, which is just the core values of me that I definitely didn't listen to most of my career while I was trying to make money and build up companies and things. But you end up selling or, exiting and just feeling a little bit hollow, like, what was that all for? That didn't actually accomplish any of the dreams or goals that I thought I had or wanted. So yeah, what you said resonates, I'd say.
How did you get over it? I mean, how did you work through it? Because I've heard that more than one time.
I mean, like what led to it first was actual like hospitalizations of different things that got pretty intense, and I had some health issues that came up, and then compounding on that was some panic attacks during the health issues. So started to open my eyes to like, hey, this is not sustainable. Um, Truthfully, I had it twice. The first time I kind of said, I'm going to make some changes. And then about a month or two later, I kind of went back into my old ways. The second time that I was in the hospital, though, I was like, all right, it's time to make some changes. So that kind of set the path of exiting. And then that set forward a path of going to therapy for the first time, reading every self-help book known to man, journaling, just being out in nature a lot, trying to kind of travel and find myself. And truthfully, it wasn't like just one quick thing. It took over a year. We even moved across the country to kind of really get a change of pace and change of environment. It took over a year before I finally felt like, okay, maybe I'm starting to get a grasp on things. It was a tough year, I'd say.
Were you just working too much, or were you just not taking care of yourself? Like, what was? I mean, I understand the therapy part and all that. I totally understand. What I'm trying to picture is like, is it just I've lost my purpose, or is it I'm just not taking care of myself and working crazy hours?
Both for sure. And I don't know if I ever had enough of a purpose. Like there were some things I really aligned with that company, and it was really focused on people and culture, which was so cool. But yeah, myself, I think I came from a pretty poor household. Really was always just like fighting to survive, not be like, in my mind, homeless, which is kind of crazy to think about now. But it was a survival thing of just work, and not ask for help along the way. I had some people close to me that were dealing with some real heavy mental health stuff. And so what I felt like is, hey, I didn't want to be a burden to them and let them know like I'm also dealing with stuff. I kind of pretended to be the rock around me, but then completely neglected myself, and that didn't go so well.
No, well, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, what you just talked about, I'm sure now I can see the meaning behind the tribe and kind of that whole thing. And, I was talking to a buddy in Nashville last week when we were there for business, and he was talking about a guy who possibly wants to sell, right? He's in my area, etc. And I said, hold on. I said, this guy's 34 years old. He's got a successful company. He don't like, why does he want to sell? And I said, no, he doesn't want to sell. He's just lonely. Like he's just lonely because entrepreneurship is lonely, and maybe it wasn't what he signed on for. I get that, and I can help him with that. But if he just needs support, like maybe we can come in as an investor or a consultant and help kind of alleviate some of that stuff. But I don't want him to give away his baby if like, and so like I think especially in that 2 to 3 to 4 million range where you don't have enough revenue to really hire that second person, but you're kind of just fighting through. Have you seen that as well too?
Yeah,
especially in the trades.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, what you just said kind of hit me, that he was lonely, and I really feel like that might be the core of what a lot of entrepreneurs go through when they start thinking about selling or going to get a regular job or just stopping what they're doing altogether. So yeah, for sure. I think that there's a lot to that. And it's funny because one of the things I hear most from entrepreneurs when we start to really try to dive deep into like why they're entrepreneurs and what they want around that, it usually is like their own small community of people that is building something cool together and having fun together. It's never usually like, hey, I want to go create this thing on my own and be that one person that does it on my own and get super wealthy on my own. Usually they want to be surrounded with a few core people that, have their back and they have each other's back and they kind of have fun together. So that's very interesting, your observation there.
No, it's so true, because we're all seeking opportunities to just be around others, and I don't think we've labeled it as that. We basically said like no, and so like look, business partners are trouble. Let's just call it what it is, right?
100%.
But the right business partnerships, man, they're worth their weight in gold. You and your relationship with your business partner, how did that work out, and kind of when you came in after they were already running?
Yeah, luckily, there's all these things in hindsight that you're really supposed to make sure that you're learning and vetting along the way, which is like complementary skill sets, values, vision, even lifestyle similarities. And I think we truthfully just got super lucky because we didn't go like consciously vet that. So my COO, we just had all of that in the right ways, which was phenomenal, versus I have had some other businesses and ventures that I've done where truthfully, I didn't vet it, and it didn't go so well there because there are some differences around values or vision or lifestyle there. So I've had both good and bad. At this point, I have built what we have going on now a little bit differently, where I'm the main operator of the investment fund and of Tribe, but we have really cool advisors who kind of function almost like a team around me, as well as investors, as well as really cool team members. So while I'm the main operator, there's still a pretty good team, and I almost love this hack of having a really good like advisory team instead of co-founder team, because co-founders are really hard to get right. It's almost like a needle in the haystack to find the right one. They say it's like marriage, where you're supposed to really put a lot of time, effort, and energy into finding the right one, and yet most of us dive straight in because it's our friend or someone has a cool idea that we're into, and most of the time that doesn't work out super well. So yeah, we'll see how it goes though. What about yourself? I've had a chance to check out your background too. Do you have business partners with what you're doing in the team?
I do, and it took a really long time and a lot of lost money, and a lot of being effed over on a repeated basis. I think that answer is twofold. One, I didn't believe that I was worthy enough to have the type of business partner to not fuck me over.
Okay, that resonates.
That's number one.
Yeah.
But number two is I also think that I was very chaotic in what I wanted in the beginning. Like I would have taken any opportunity and said yes, and I did say yes to everything, which has served me now. But what I realized is when shit goes south, and I mean really south, you find out who real business partners are. And what I've realized, especially, we just had an owners meeting last week in person. I'd rather do business slower with the right people than just jump at the next opportunity hoping that it works out. And I think, we spend a lot of time at work. We spend a lot of time, we have 50 plus employees now. You had 1,000, 2,000. I spend a lot of time at work. I spend a lot of time in my mind. And if I don't want to be having a cigar or playing golf with my business partners or traveling with families together, then I'm really, we're focused on the wrong things. So I will turn down multiple opportunities now because integrity and what they care about when it comes to the end of the day. Because for me, I'll be as clear as I can be. Yes, I want money, obviously, but it's literally doesn't mean anything to me at all. I want to create jobs for people, and I want to give them a great place to work where they can, my dream is very simple. We create such an environment where an employee that works for me goes and creates his own business, and we're his investor, and we help them support their dreams of having ownership. That's it. Like, I don't want anything else. And those are things like the items that we're in right now. These are like 50-year things. These are like 100-year things. So like the idea that we came up with to supercharge the idea that we already had is like so big, it's insane, right? But like that excites me. Like if my CEO tells me to stop, then I know we're onto something great. He's like, okay, like don't tell me that weird idea. He's like, that sounds so out there, and I'm like, yeah, but it's really cool because it's impactful, and you only do that when you're connected on the same vision with the right partners. Because you're 100% right. I've said yes a million times to ideas and situations, but what I realized, and I think you realized too, is I realized that all those decisions and all those ideas and all those people that got put together were because of me. And wow. I feel like, especially in my younger days, I was a rocket ship that people were just trying to get on because they saw dollar signs instead of actually wanting to support me.
Yeah, that resonates. There's something there for sure. So I'm curious then, how did you come to that realization and change? Because it feels like pretty similar. I think most of us start in the same way, where we say yes to a lot of opportunities. They don't necessarily work out how we hope. And then we have some sort of revelation that changes our course. What was your big one?
So saying no, this is the hardest thing in the world. So saying no is actually personal love. It's very hard to understand that, right? So me getting sober at 36 and working on myself and realizing, honestly, I told her this last week and she doesn't believe me, but it's all the same. My fiance, she'll believe me one day. My fiance is my secret weapon. She is, Austin, you don't need to do business with these people just because. Like, you're the prize. Like, you be the prize and, like, understand that, you're kind of the engine that keeps it going. And so turning down extremely large opportunities because they didn't align with me, I think was the first step. And saying, you know what? I'm going to create an abundant mindset and understand that there's a new best deal that comes around once a week was like step number one. But first doing it and then getting the confidence to say, oh, wow, like that, I turned that down, but look what came behind it. Like that for me was the first kind of iteration of like, oh, this is like possible, right? I can like say no to this thing, but there's still greatness around the corner. When you switch that mindset, that's when it kind of shifted for me.
Yeah, I think that hits home pretty deeply. It's hard though, and a lot of us are, people pleasers in nature, so it's hard to go say no. But I think you're right. Yeah, and it's just like for me too. I definitely would not have started these businesses by myself, the initial ones. I didn't have enough belief in myself to be able to do it. But similar, when you start realizing, okay, actually no, there's there's proof here that this has worked, and it can continue to work. And it's hard to get that belief in yourself, especially maybe when you didn't have it growing up or things around
Let me ask you, how old are you?
33.
Okay, here's the question: do you think that you're successful?
I still would say no.
Okay, I knew that's what you're going to say. So it's not that's neither here nor there. But because I've asked that question to thousands of people and everybody says no. Okay.
Yeah, crazy.
So, but you've had 2 exits. You're starting a new business. You have a roof over your head. Like, that's my message to everybody that listens to the podcast. Like, here you are fighting for scraps when a guy that's exited 2, what I would venture to guess, nice-sized companies, tells you no, right? Because success is not defined in data points.
True. Yeah. And I think we can go chase for a long time as well. But yeah, I will say, after a certain point of time, it became less about finding that success and more about just living values. And so I went down this thesis of nothing in terms of like goals matters as much if you can just live your day-to-day values. And so really got heavy on that concept and tried to surround myself around that. I will say though, in that process, I got a little bit maybe complacent, and I kind of felt like I needed something in terms of a bigger vision and goal to still work towards to kind of motivate me. And so it was this weird balance then of looking forward to things, not necessarily being exactly happy with where I was at, but also being happy with the day-to-day and the values at the exact same time. So kind of a weird dichotomy. I'm curious, obviously I've seen some of your stuff too. Values, have you dove much into your own personal values and kind of what that all looks like for you?
And yeah, I mean, it's people first. People over profits is number one for me. We just came up with a new one this last week, was like standards beyond standards. So like excellence is like what we're after. But for me, yeah, it's such a weird thing. I hate goals too. I really do. Don't like them. I think they're hollow. I think we've become a goal society. But I agree with you on the value part. If I don't have targets to shoot at, like values is what I fall to. Goals are what I drive to. Like targets are what I drive to, right? So like values are my you need both. Like values are my system, but like the question is like, okay, so I want to make $1 million this year. Like, okay, like is that like, guess what? The next year it's gonna be 2 million. like totally. So for me, my why is I put around job creation. That's my metric. How many jobs do we have created? So that's my metric that doesn't stop no matter how many we have. I could do one more. I could do another one. And so for me, and then I came up with this one. You'll love this one. You of all people will love this one. So it took me 6 months to come up with this. And I asked myself before we bought this first business if I wanted it. I only want to run races I can't win.
What's your why behind that?
So I only want to do things that doesn't have a mountaintop, because I realized that the reason I was getting burnt out is the things weren't big enough.
I like that a lot, actually.
because at the end of the day, look, this is what I come to. If I wanted to be a salesman that made double six figures, didn't have to worry about work, and I was just a mercenary, I could do that.
Yep.
But that's not a life that I want to lead. And so, okay, I love coaching. I love helping people. Okay. One-on-one's great. But how do I do it at scale? Oh, you do it through small business. Okay, cool. So there you go. There's your thing. Okay, here's the problem. Just like cycling, which I got into during COVID and I need to get back on. You know how cycling works? You can always be faster and you can always have better times. There is no, and you can always go more miles. If you went 70 miles, you go 71. So I only want to do things that doesn't have this, like, there's no ceiling. It doesn't matter. And so for me, that's why I find it hilarious that people predicate their happiness on how many likes they got on a thing.
Totally.
So like my podcast, I'm going to release it every day that I'm supposed to forever.
I like it.
Like the downloads don't matter because the aggregate of the thing is the thing. So meaning, okay, what would 10,000 podcast episodes look like in my time? What would happen in those 10,000 episodes instead of worrying about, how many downloads episode, 986 got?
That's interesting. And that's a much different perspective than most people are looking at it too, which is just going to allow you to enjoy the process along the way.
Look, the podcast got over 100,000. My big goal was 100,000 downloads. Okay. The podcast got over $100,000 and I stopped caring. I literally haven't looked since, and I didn't look before because here's the stat that's crazy. In year 3 or 4, we got more downloads in January than we did the entire first year of the podcast.
Crazy. So
like, it goes back to James Clear. Are you living your life off of trajectory thinking or position thinking? So meaning if my life is going up and to the right every day, then we're good. The amount of dollars in my bank account on a Tuesday in November doesn't dictate how my overall life is going.
Totally. Yeah, that resonates. And I think but what I wonder, we can talk about this and people can listen, but does it actually get through without them experiencing it? This is one of the big wonders I have. Do they have to go kind of experience it for themselves too?
I think that you have to choose that there's more. And I think with the choice of more, I think it plants a seed for everything else.
That makes sense. Yeah, I like that. Interesting.
Because at the end of the day, I got some news about something, right, in my family or whatever. But like for me, it doesn't hit me in that moment. It hits me on a walk 3 months later. Like in a moment or something, So I think that we think that it's like, oh, I'm going to hear this today and I'm going to go bam. And it's like, no, it's this gradual, like, here's the thing. The eroding of your personal health didn't happen in one day.
Totally.
It happened over time. Well, making it better took time too. Yeah.
That makes sense. I think you're right. And even thinking about my own personal journey of becoming an entrepreneur, it wasn't just like a quick decision. There was a lot of little seeds that have been planted along the way, little things I'd listened to, little things I'd read, things I'd felt. And then, that stuff accumulated to eventually make that move. And I think a lot of people are probably similar. The more that people can feel validated, heard, understood, and like they're, going through similar things would be helpful to them.
So my favorite quote of all time, George Bernard Shaw, 1930s playwright. He goes, the single greatest problem with communication is the illusion that has taken place. we believe that we've communicated with ourselves and others what we want in life. Okay. This is where a lot of men get in trouble. Can't you see all the hard work I'm putting in for my family, for you, so you could have this and you could have that. And that's their justification. And when the wife or the kid didn't even ask for any of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that resonates. Interesting.
And so one of my other favorite things I heard is be careful that you might bleed on the people that didn't cut you. And so as an entrepreneurship, we got into this for some reason, most of us, ADD, family issues, grew up poor, like they didn't sign up for this wild journey. They signed up to love you, right? And so we have to be careful that, because driven would be an understatement. Like I'm a banshee. Like when I'm out there, like I'm just in it. I'm and so like I've learned, I'm not great at it, but I'm getting better. I've learned to like throttle it down for like 20-30 minutes before I like walk through the door. Like tell my fiance like, hey, I need like 20 minutes to go for a walk, just so you don't get like entrepreneurship, Austin.
Yep. Definitely had to do the same. That's one of the hard things about working from home.
Oh, it's the worst.
When you just walk right after you're fired up.
Dude, my buddy loans like $500 million loans, like $1 billion loans for Chase Bank, and he goes, there's nothing like yelling at my analyst in Croatia, because he's not doing his job, and then walking out the door and having my 2-year-old around my ankles 5 seconds later.
It's not. Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. Like, for what we complain about with the office and all that, there's a lot to that makes it better, in my opinion, to go work there, be with the community, but also to get a little bit of time before you get home to be able to, decompress before you bring it all into the household.
I had a good coach, guy that mentored men, that gave a tip that I can give to everybody. He had a song every day that he would play, and it would flip his mood. Meaning, like, he would know it's time to be dad. So he would play the song every day, and it was a signal that he can flip the energy.
I like that.
And so I really like that, right? Because he was going home, he was cooking, that kind of stuff. So when you exit a business and you step, into that abyss, right? I read a book one time that said the hardest part is not falling after you've sold, not to climb up. Like it's like, I remember the guy that sold Tom shoes or something. He got wired like $350 million. He said he was in bed for 6 weeks afterwards.
Really?
Like, cause his whole purpose, right? And he started a company about like this whole journey. Like, so as you stand back on it now and you reflect, like, what's your advice to like other people who are maybe looking to exit or exiting in the future?
I mean, the biggest thing would be around trying to find identity outside of your work, because I think we all get so tied up into our work. Even me at the beginning of this, so I introduced myself based on my career rather than other things, and I think that's pretty commonplace. But to really think about those values that are important to you. The way that I've thought about that is like zooming out to my 85-year-old self, thinking back on my life and thinking back on what was I most proud of or happy that I was able to experience. And typically when I think back on that, for me, it's like surrounding myself with people and having really good time with those people, traveling, helping a lot of people, spending a lot of time with my family. And so I can narrow in on like 6 or 7 things that are really big and valuable to me that are outside of work. And actually, when I think back as my 85-year-old self, almost never do I think about the work accomplishments or the money or any of that stuff. It's really all these other things that we often forget about when we're just in that grind and that survival to try to get going. So the more you can think about that and start to build things into the life that are surrounded around those values, the better. And the other analogy I like to think about it is, life and values and different things are kind of like you're a waiter and you have 6 or 7 different tables happening. And if you really just tend to this one table for a while, all your other tables are going to get neglected and forgotten, and maybe they're out of water, or they're not getting their food. And that can be your family, that can be community, helping others, whatever it might be. But the longer that you go without paying attention to all of them, the more problems are going to arise for you in the long run, versus if you're able to kind of balance them all, you're going to feel much more in harmony, and everyone's going to feel a lot better. And I think most of the time when we have those big exits, it's because we really just focus and have those problems. We've just focused too much on the work identity and not the rest of our being, in my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Wait, no, we just had a new sales guy start. I got him from another big company. He left. He's really good at what he does. And I introduced him to the sales team. And for like 7 minutes, he goes on about like what he did for them and like who he was in his business. And I go, hey, so I'm not like other bosses. I don't care. I was like, I hired you because you're great at what you do, right? And I go, yeah. Tell them about your wife and your daughter and what you care about. And he was like, oh, well, that's new. And I was like, yeah, like, dude, I hired you because you're a good salesman. I could care less. Okay, you're going to do great. I'm not worried about that. Like, let's talk about who you are as a person. And he was like, wow, this is like pretty crazy. And I was like, yeah, like, but like my buddies, like true story. And I mean this wholeheartedly. Do I know what they do? My best friends? Yes. Do we ever talk about what they do? No. Like never.
Yeah.
Like ever. And the issue is that the reason that we tie our identity towards those things is because they're easy metrics to measure. Okay. Look, me as a coach, okay, I coach people to be happy, to have a better relationship with their spouse and their kids, right? And to be more fulfilled. That's really hard to sell. Well, Austin, but what metric am I going to know that the money I gave you is going to make me better? Well, tough shit. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, but here's how I know. You ready for it? It's very simple because it happens in my career. It happens in my business. The wife reaches out to me. Hey, my husband is so much better, and whatever you're doing, do it great. Good. That's my metric. Boom, done. All the value in the world. We don't need to care what the spouse, because what people don't realize is I'm not coaching you as much as I'm coaching you. I'm coaching your kids and your wife. And if you can show up as a better version of yourself, then everybody's going to be happy. And that's the hard thing. And so I stopped telling them that. I stopped telling clients that they're going to be happier because they're like, who cares? Like, how am I going to make like $5 million more in my business? I'm like, dude, you can have all the money in the world, but if nobody's standing around you, then what are we doing here?
It's huge. It's actually one more big hack to business and life in general too that I think most don't appreciate. Most entrepreneurs especially work a lot and can just be driven, as you said, like crazy, but aren't necessarily paying attention to their own mental health, their own fun. They have all these responsibilities around them, but the more that they can kind of tap into those other things, the better off that they will do in business and in life. And I've seen anecdotally with me and several others. You can also look at examples of people that have done super well. Like Richard Branson is a great one I like to look at. Like that guy embodies fun and doing the things he wants to do, and yet he's also ran these massive companies and has teams around him, and really made priorities around those experiences as well. So giving permission to people to be able to take care of yourself is kind of crazy that we even have to like talk about it. And I wouldn't have believed it 5-10 years ago. I'd been like, no, you need to work hard. That's the way you get successful. When in reality, the more that you can feel connected to yourself, aligned, but also think kind of in abundance and not necessarily scarcity, it's definitely going to rub off on all the people around you, but also that's going to rub off in many, many other ways that you probably don't even realize.
There's a 3-letter word that most, if not all, adults have forgot, and it's called fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Fun. We forgot. We've over-optimized society, right? With crypto 24/7, social media 24/7. We don't. We're just optimizing to optimize, and it's like, okay, like that's cool, but like you got to have some fun. You got to So like my number one step with my clients is like, hey, what was something that you really like to do as a kid or a teenager that you don't do anymore? because you're not doing it because it's not making you money. But what you don't realize, if you start doing it, you're going to start making more money.
Yeah, 100%. What is it usually for them? Some sort of sport or something?
Golf, fishing, boating, all the above. Even if it's like getting in an intramural team, but just like having that outlet, right? Boxing, whatever it is, right? But most of the time, we think that things aren't available because we don't have time, but we're not giving it the time it's needed.
Yeah, we've like made these invisible restrictions on our life because we think that we're supposed to follow some sort of script for it, when in reality we can kind of choose what that script looks like and open it up to whatever we want it to be. Yeah, I think in that whole journey of building Helpware, fun was very much on the back burner. I don't know that I had much at all. And even then, like back when I was in a career, I could take vacations and really enjoy them. When I moved over to being a business owner, on that particular instance, I might have taken vacations, but I couldn't enjoy them at all. Like I just kept thinking about work, kept checking in on work, and but there's just something there of, if you didn't have to follow this invisible script for yourself, what would you be doing if you could enjoy your day a little bit more? I like that exercise of your perfect day, your perfect week, and then trying to build that in and living that life. So I'm trying to do now. Sometimes I forget, but sometimes I don't, and it ends up being good. Part of why we moved here, though, is good surf here, a lot of good outdoors. It's a lower cost of living, so we're able to really go out more, have more fun, and do those different things that necessarily I wasn't able to. I could do, but I'd feel a lot heavier about them out in California, where it was quite a bit more expensive. So,
I love that. If people want to track you down, they want to check out the tribe, how would they do that?
Yeah, I mean, most active on X, probably Trent J. Hughes, and then Tribe is just tribehq.co. Feel free to check it out.
Awesome. Guys, if you got some value from this, send it around to a friend, rate us in reviews, and we'll see you next time.
Folks, if you made it to the end of the episode, I'm sure you found some value with what you're listening to. If you could send this to a friend, rate us and review us, share us around. The more that you share us, the more that we can share content with you. Thank you all so much for your time and listening, and we'll see you next time.